part of their family, and they always include me in everything they do. So, like was presented when I started, I'm gonna switch. Sorry, I'm gonna not talk about with them as a community board member, and everything that I've realized as a customer with them, really their culture. It's who they are, and they spend every day working to be the best they can be for our community. So I'm sure many have seen the Cowboy Code of Ethics, if you've ever been in there. And I picked two that I feel like they represent really well, and I've seen in probably my 6 or 7 months now as a community board member. And so I'll tell you about those. One thing about being a community board, and Tanya can tell you this too, getting your feet wet in the banking world is a whole different world, because in construction, like our financial statements, totally different. Their acronyms, I always look at Tanya like, do you know what that is? And she doesn't, and we kind of like, yeah, we'll keep going. Well, last meeting, they started to explain some of them for us because they're long, and sorry guys, we have no idea what you're talking about. Sometimes I catch on, but most of the time I don't. So anyway, the first one I want to talk about was do what needs to get done. So kind of the story I have behind this is I have always seen Jonah Bank at every single nonprofit event in this city. They always have a table. They always represent well. And I guess I didn't realize until after I became a board member that they spend a lot of money in our communities, and that is their goal, to make sure that they spend money with our nonprofits. So they're there and they're present, but they're also putting a lot of money back into this community. So that's a huge deal. I don't think everyone gets recognized for that all the time. So that was my first one. The second one was Ride for the Brand and make Wyoming better. So the story I have kind of behind this one was, I think this was our second board meeting, and we have to kind of present what's going on in our industry. So I was talking about all the money that's coming through the construction industry, and how it's going to be a really great couple of years, except we can't find a workforce. People are retiring faster than we're able to bring on new management and new people to do the work in the field. And so everyone's like, oh yeah, the workforce, those young folk don't work, you know? And so I left, and I get a call from Michelle Dehoff that afternoon, and she said, I want to have lunch with you. And I thought, oh great, what did I say or do at the meeting? But so I took my HR manager with us, and we were talking about how can we market Ryman to be better? And we thought it was weird, and we're like, okay, cool. And they're telling us stories about Jonah Bank. And by the end of the lunch, they had offered us a great program that we can offer our employees at Ryman Corp for just being an employee at Ryman through Jonah Bank. And so I was stunned and shocked, because that was not what I asked. I never expected anything from them. But again, they are doing what they have to do in our communities and for our companies to make sure that we're all better. And when we're all better, we have a better Wyoming. So again, I wanted to thank you guys so much. I have so many stories about Lori and everyone else on the team, but I really wanted to highlight those back for me, that you guys are all about your community and all about your customers. And we thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lauren. I think it's awesome you have a customer speak on your behalf. That's way better than Aaron could do, or yeah, way better. All right. We'd also like to thank our other sponsors as well. Our gold sponsors, Little America Hotel and Resort, and then our bronze sponsors, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Wyoming and Ryman Corporation. Thank you, guys. So thank you again to all of our sponsors. What we would do would not be possible without all of you. But now I would like to welcome Barbara Pice with U.S. Bank and introduce our new members in the Red Carpet Committee.
Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Pies, and I serve on our Chamber Red Carpet Committee. As Chamber ambassadors, We're driving vibrant connections and unforgettable events. From our ribbon cuttings to beautification awards, we're championing our business community every day. Ready to be a rock star in our red carpet family? Find any of us in red or connect with the chamber staff to ignite your passion for Cheyenne's success. Let's paint the town red together. Please join me in welcoming Tori and Anna Manning from Scooter's Coffee. Scooter's Coffee, founded in 1998 by Don and Linda Eccles, thrives on emotional connections with farmers, employees, and customers alike. With a commitment to top-tier beans and speedy service, Scooter stands out with its signature Caramelicious and iconic smiley stickers, spreading joy with every sip. Welcome to our chamber, Scooters. Please join me in welcoming Jesse and Christina Bowler from the 307 Diesel Doctor. The 307 Diesel Doctor LLC, based in Cheyenne, Wyoming, is the epitome of reliability in heavy-duty truck and equipment repair. A 24/7 mobile mechanic service equipped with top-notch diagnostics and tools, it ensures seamless operations for trucking businesses. A trusted name in truck and automotive repair. Thank you. Okay, please join me in welcoming Mark Hess and Jesse from MHC Kenworth. Celebrating excellence, MHC Kenworth is part of a robust nationwide network that delivers top-notch Kenworth and Volvo trucks with cutting-edge technology. Experience unparalleled service and explore our diverse inventory today. Welcome to the chamber.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amber. I'm the Vice President of the Chamber, and I just wanted to thank you guys for all being here today. We're super excited to have Chris join us and hear him speak today. Just a couple of updates from the Chamber. We are rolling into the third week of the budget session, and it has definitely been a long couple of weeks. Our adversarial bills, those are our priorities right now, and those are actually still in play. Those are still going, and they're actually in committee right now as we're talking right now. So I don't have any updates on those. We will get those shared with everybody after we see what happens today on the floor and all of that. Let me get the script, guys. Sorry. And Dale is actually, he's been in meetings all week in DC and currently in San Antonio right now, meeting with the Chief of Staff of the Air Force Civilian Group. So he's going to have some great updates to share with everybody when he gets back next week. So we'll get some emails and some newsletters out to you guys. We do have a MAC luncheon coming up on March 15th, and that will be General Porter with the Wyoming Military Department, and that will be at the Cheyenne Depot on the 15th. So please join us and come out for that. And that's really all that we have from the chamber side right now. So I'm going to go ahead and do our drawings. And I'll have Tanya help me with those. Let me get this back in here, actually. Perfect. We'll do the 50/50. So we have $96. And pull a ticket. All right, 3057847. Oh, Angie, there we go. Woo!
I think you should validate.
Check the ticket. I think I trust her. All right, and then we are going to do our free lunch drawing. It is Cassie Hesh from Adams Publishing Group. Perfect. If you want to just see one of our staff, and we'll get you down for your free luncheon, okay? Thanks, guys. Thanks for being here.
All right, thank you, Amber. All right, now I am delighted to welcome our special guest, Chris Eyler, to the stage. It is a fantastic opportunity to come together to hear about the things that are happening at the U.S. Chamber level and all the excitement and the buzz going on nationally and in our community. So everybody help me in welcoming Chris Eyler. You want to hold it?
I'll try. Well, thank you, Tanya. As Tanya said, my name is Chris Eyler. I am the U.S. Chamber's Vice President for the Northwest region. And just by way of background, what that means is my role is to work directly with Dale and Amber and all of their counterparts at the state and local chambers of commerce here in Wyoming, as well as in the states of Alaska, Wyoming, or Alaska, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Montana. We do this because we place a tremendously high value on working directly with our state and local partners, getting your feedback on what we are doing on your behalf back in DC, and making sure that we have your input. We do rely a lot on your input to inform our advocacy agenda. Dale is in fact a member of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Committee of 100, which is our advisory committee made up of the 100 best chamber executives in the country. So thank you for the support you give us. Thank you for the support you give your local chamber. We couldn't do what we do without you. So thank you. And thank you all for being here today. I recognize that the weather you're having right now is not typical for this time of year, so I appreciate the talk. So today I'm going to do my best to give you an overview and explain how we see things in the economy right now, what's going on in DC, what the political environment looks like, what we need more of out of our elected officials, and then I will touch briefly on the 2024 election cycle. So, okay, good. So if we were here last year and I was giving this presentation, I would start off with a much different assessment of the economy. At this time last year, economists generally, including our own economists, were very pessimistic about the outlook for 2023. Almost every economist, including our own, as I said, felt that by the end of the year, we would be in a recession. Fortunately, that didn't materialize. Things worked out much better. The economy grew throughout 2023. We closed out 2023 with fairly robust growth that came in at 3.2%. That should actually say 3.2%. They revised it slightly as soon as I made this slide, of course. But nevertheless, the economy grew very strong towards the end of 2023, and it's projected to continue growing throughout 2024. This is being driven largely by a strong job growth as well as strong wage growth. And as you can see here, inflation, while it is still higher than what we would like it to be, it has come down dramatically from the high of 9.1% a little over a year and a half ago. It now stands at about 3.1%. That is higher than the Fed's 2% target rate. But fortunately, wages are growing faster than inflation at this point. All of that wage growth is driving pretty robust consumption. Consumers are what are driving this economy right now. They continue to buy quite a bit at the retail level. Businesses are continuing to buy and invest in their businesses. But this doesn't mean we're out of the woods quite yet. Because inflation has remained stubbornly high, demand, they've spent down that savings and now have levels of savings than they did prior to the pandemic. Consequently, consumers are carrying larger and larger balances on their credit card. This is very concerning. But as long as wages continue to grow, we fully expect that the economy is going to continue to grow and consumption is going to continue to go up. That being said, small businesses are still fairly apprehensive about things. The Small Business Optimism Index is still at a 50-year low. In fact, when we talk to our small business members, they cite three specific things when they explain why they're continuing to have a lot of anxiety about the economy. As our earlier speaker noted, the lack of available workers are much better than they were at this point last year. consumer sentiment has finally started to tick up slightly. It's still lower than what it has been in the past, but we are finally starting to see some optimism from consumers about the state of the economy. Turning now to our politics, I cannot say that there are the same green shoots of optimism when it comes to the state of our politics that we are seeing with respect to the economy. Americans, by and large, are very sour about what they're seeing going on in DC, as well as at the state level too. By a margin of more than 2 to 1, Americans feel that the country is on the wrong track. And when it Am I? Oh, no. Oh. I'll let her work that out. When it comes to our political leaders, no one has anything nice at all to say about any of them. The president's approval rating has been consistently underwater since about August of his first year in office. I'm sorry, this is a little more difficult without my slides. And then when you look at the approval ratings of all our congressional leaders, and I assure you the slide would show that their approval ratings are all underwater as well, irrespective of party. Democrat, Republican, elected leaders in this country all have lower approval ratings than they do. They have disapproval ratings that are higher than their approval ratings. This has not made for a very productive Congress, as I'm sure you are all well aware if you watch the news. This Congress in particular, which is a divided Congress, the Senate has a 2-seat majority in favor of the Democrats. The House of Representatives has a very narrow 219 to 213 majority in favor of the Republicans, is on track to be, it has been marked as the first removal of a Speaker of the House in our. We have seen the expulsion of another member of the House for only the 6th time in history. And as we have seen play out this week, as we speak, Congress is continuing to have a path forward just to do the most basic role of government and fund the government through the annual appropriations process. In total, still no slide. Okay. So what this has all resulted in is a Congress that is on track to be one of the least productive, if not the least productive Congress in history. In fact, during the first session of the 118th Congress, the House and Senate managed to only pass 34 bills that made it to the president's desk for his signature. What more, in the House of Representatives, despite having a Republican majority, Republican leadership has found it nearly impossible to corral all their members, and they've had to look to Democrats to get some of the biggest bills across the finish line. This includes the annual National Defense Authorization Act. This is a bill that has passed every single year for more than 65 years, almost automatically with bipartisan support. They have, as I've already mentioned, been unable to pass any of the annual appropriations bills, and they've had to pass continuing resolutions, and they've had to look to Democrats to get those bills across the finish line. And it included raising the federal debt ceiling last summer. So how did we get here? Like, this isn't anything new. We've always had divided government through our history. In fact, it's more often that we have divided government where one branch of government is controlled by one party and the other controlled by another party than it is that we've seen unified control of government. Well, there are a number of trends that we have noticed over the past quarter century that kind of give us a good idea of why things are the way they are in DC at the moment. And the first is that polarization and disruption have really become the norm over the past 25 years. And what do I mean by this? If you look at the period of time from 1960 to the year 2000, there were 20 election cycles. In only 7 of those election cycles did you see any kind of change in control of government, meaning the House flipped from Republican to Democrat, the Senate flipped, or the White House flipped. Only 7 election cycles during that nearly 40-year period of time resulted in any kind of change in control of government. Since then, from the year 2000 to the year 2022, We have only had 12 election cycles, and in 10 of those 12 election cycles, we have seen some kind of change in control of government. So why is this significant? Well, in the latter half of the 20th century, because government wasn't changing hands too frequently, members of Congress, if they wanted to get things done, they had to have a willingness to reach across the aisle and work with the other side. Since the year 2000, if you are a member of the minority party, it's very plausible that you could be in the majority after the next election. So that incentive to work with the other side just isn't there the way it was during the last half of the 20th century. The other trend that we've noticed is that the number of competitive congressional districts has dropped significantly over the past 25 years. During the 70s, 80s, and 90s, it was common that there would be over 100 congressional districts that were considered competitive. And by competitive, what I mean is voters in that congressional district voted for a member of Congress from one party and a presidential candidate from another party. That average number of districts that is considered competitive has fallen to just 23 in this current election cycle. So this is significant because what's happened is members of Congress are less and less concerned about their general election, and they're more concerned about their primary. And when they're more concerned about their primary, they move more to their ideological. They're more concerned about a challenge from their right, so they move to the right. Democrats more concerned about a challenge from their left, they move to the left. So what we've ended up with is a Congress that is made up of much more ideological members of Congress and members of Congress who are less and less willing to work with the other side to get things done. And that's, that may be an oversimplification of why we're here, but these are the trends that we're seeing. Meanwhile, while all of the focus is on the dysfunction and chaos in Congress, little attention is being paid to what's actually going on at the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue, where we are seeing presidential administrations increasingly focusing their policy agenda on moving things through the regulatory rulemaking process. This is something that we have seen, again, irrespective of party. Republican presidents, Democratic presidents have, is particularly when they lose unified control of government, as President Biden did in November, they start pushing their policies through regulatory rulemakings rather than try to work with a divided Capitol Hill. What separates President Biden from previous administrations is how aggressive he is being when it comes to regulating. In December, indicated that they had 2,524 regulatory actions that they intend to take this year alone. And while that number is enormous, what's even more concerning is the number of regulatory actions that they want to take that are under active consideration right now that are considered economically significant. And what I mean by economically significant is a regulation is considered economically significant if its projected impact on the economy is $200 million or more. And right now, of all the regulations that they have under active consideration, the number that are considered economically significant is 69% higher than at this point at the end of President Obama's first term. So businesses are starting to really take notice and be very concerned about this. Last year, we did an examination of the 10K filings that businesses on the S&P 500 file with the SEC. And what we observed in those filings is that between the year 2011 and 2021, businesses were increasingly citing in these filings concerns about public policy. Things like immigration policy, labor policy, intellectual property policy. They were increasingly citing these things in those filings, and we saw an increase from 2011 to 2021 by 27%. From 2021 to from 2011 to 2021, businesses increased. Oh, we have it back. There we go. The number of times that businesses were citing public policy concerns in these otherwise business and financial filings had increased 27%. And when we talk to our members about why are you more and more concerned about public policy, what they tell us is three basic things: constant changes in control of government in DC, a willingness when a party is in the majority to legislate on a partisan basis rather than work with the other side to build a bipartisan coalition, and a willingness by presidential administrations to push their policy agenda, regulatory process, rather than work with the Hill. And it's important to make legal changes through the legislative process, because those changes will be more robust, they will be more durable. They provide the public and businesses with a lot more certainty that isn't going to change dramatically from one administration to the next. When you do things, as we've now seen through the past several administrations, the next administration comes in, it's a Republican, they undo every single thing that the previous administration does, and the next one comes in and they. Now, unfortunately, all happening at a time when we to lead. We all have frustrations with government. We all think that government needs to do a better job about reining in spending, but we can't keep going from shutdown to shutdown, and to coming up to the last minute when it comes to raising the debt ceiling or just simply funding the government. Businesses need an open government and a stable government. That's what we have to have certainty. We can't have this uncertainty on the road. Right now, yesterday, they passed another continuing resolution that simply funds the government for one more week. That we need better leadership in DC, because businesses next, as our earlier speaker noted, we don't have enough workers right now. Right now, there are more than 2.8 more jobs than there are available workers. Yes, we need to do a better job of worker training. We need to do a better job of aligning our higher education system with the needs of employers. The fact of the matter is, we don't have enough workers in the broken immigration system. This starts with securing the border. It also means we need nice employment-based visa programs that allow people to come into this country legally and work. This spectrum of the economy, be it seasonal workers, agriculture workers, hospitality workers, to high-tech workers. We just don't have enough people. There are programs in place, but they're inadequate to meet the need of the workplace right now. So we need to fix those visa programs. And then lastly, we need to give employers the tools they need to verify that the people who are coming into this country, they're here legally and eligible to work. The other thing we really need much more focus on right now is taxes. Something that's not getting a lot of attention in the press is that the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act that was passed during the Trump administration is beginning to expire. Not all of the cuts and tax credits and deductions included in that law were made permanent. Because of budgetary restrictions, they had to make a number of these deductions temporary. 3 of those deductions important to the business community have already expired. They are the research and development deduction, the earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization interest deduction, and the 100% bonus depreciation. But these are all very, very important deductions for businesses. They determine how businesses, how and when they can deduct their R&D expenses, their interest expenses, and their capital depreciation expenses. It has meant billions, it has freed up billions of dollars for businesses to reinvest in their employees and their businesses. However, they've expired, and we desperately need these deductions extended. Fortunately, this is one area where Congress has actually done something very good. Just last month, the House of Representatives passed an extension of all 3 deductions on a bipartisan vote of 357 to 70, but right now it's stuck in the Senate. And we desperately need the Senate to act on this sooner rather than later. Businesses are already in the process of filing their taxes. They need to know if they can take these deductions this year, and then again, they need to know if these deductions will be there in the future so that they can plan accordingly and make their investments, know what types of investments they can make. So my one ask of you all here today is please consider reaching out to Senators Barrasso and Lummis and encourage them to support the bipartisan tax extender bill. My colleagues in DC have indicated that they are very supportive of this, but we need them to encourage Leader McConnell and Finance Finance Committee Ranking Member Crapo to allow this process to move forward. So lastly, as I mentioned, I do want to talk briefly about the elections. I'm not going to make any predictions. Things right now could go any which way with respect to the elections. With such narrow majorities in both the House and the Senate, and so few seats actually in play, added to that, the volatility at the presidential level and the general sour nature of the electorate, anything could happen. But that being said, I do want to give you a snapshot of where a lot of the attention is going to be this year. So with respect to the House of Representatives, as I noted earlier, there are currently 23 seats that are considered competitive. 5 of those seats are currently held by Democrats in what are considered Republican districts, and 18 of those seats are held by Republicans and are in what are considered Democratic districts. So that means that Democrats have a slight advantage, on paper at least, in terms of their ability to retake control of the House after the 2024 elections. In the Senate, it's a much different situation. There are 33 Senate seats in cycle. 20 of those are currently held by Democrats, 10 are held by Republicans, 3 are held by independents who caucus with the Democrats. But only 7 of those 33 seats are considered competitive. Of those 7, all 7 are held by Democrats, and of those 7, 6 are in presidential battleground states. So at least on paper, the Republicans actually have an advantage in terms of their ability to retake control of the US Senate. What this means is that, as I already noted, anything can happen. And we estimate that there are roughly 6 plausible outcomes to the election in November, ranging from everything stays the way it is to everything flips and everything in between. Whoever wins, our message to you all is please keep doing what you're doing right now. Support your local chamber, support the advocacy work they're doing. If we have learned anything over the past decade, it's that no majority and no presidential administration is necessarily an advantage to the business community. We saw big wins during the Trump administration with respect to taxes and regulatory relief, but we also saw a lot of frustrations during that administration with respect to international trade policy, immigration reform. Likewise, we've actually been able to get some big wins during the Biden administration with respect to transportation and the CHIPS and Sciences Act, but we've also continued to have lots of frustration with this administration when it comes to trade policy, and then significant concerns with respect to labor policy and their push to promote unionization. So it's very important that businesses are at the table and that we keep doing what we're doing, speaking up on the issues that are important to our members. And the best way you can do that is support your chamber, support the work of the Wyoming State Chamber, and then please continue to support our work in DC on your behalf. So with that, I apologize for the technical difficulties, but I'm more than happy to take any questions.
In regards to the polarization and whatever, what can we do on a local level or in our own areas to help improve it?
I think support, with respect to the business community, support pro-business candidates who are not just going to support pro-business policy, but they're going to do so with an interest in governing, at least at the national level. One of the things that we have observed over the past 10 to 15 years is that there are too many people going to DC with no interest in governing. They may be good on paper on the issues, but when they get there, they do counterproductive things like allow the government to shut down or threaten to default on our credit. These aren't things that are helpful to governing. We have to have people who go to DC, who come here to Cheyenne, to the legislature, who are willing to work together and recognize that just because they disagree with someone doesn't mean that they can't find some common ground to allow legislation to move forward. So, I think, one of the things that we have done at the national level is we have a political program. We have tried where we can make a difference to support candidates through endorsements, through campaign contributions, who are going to go to DC, support our issues, but also they're not going to engage in counterproductive behavior, like allowing the government to shut down or threatening to default on our credit. Yeah. So this is something that we have been seeing this develop for quite a while now, and it does precede the pandemic, but the pandemic accelerated it. You saw a lot of people retire earlier than they were planning once the pandemic hit. You saw a lot of people who, prior to the pandemic, were two-income families, and they realized that they could get by on one income, so they didn't both go back to the workforce after the pandemic. There is a real problem in this country with a lack of affordable childcare, and a lot of people have been unable to return to the workforce because they can't find childcare that they can afford. And frankly, you have one of the largest generations in history retiring at a rate of 10,000 people per day. It's the workforce has just been gradually shrinking over time, and then you have this shock to the system that caused a lot of people to leave the workforce for a variety of reasons. But there's no one reason why this is happening. It's something that's been happening for a while.
Or being able to kind of invite people to get back to work and so support the local business and everything?
Well, it's tough for small businesses. I don't have the answer. But I think, we at the chamber, I know that the Cheyenne Chamber and other chambers are working with their legislature, working with Congress to find ways to address things like the lack of affordable childcare. I think that is very much front and center with us in looking at ways that the federal government can help make that more affordable. I know there's a lot of chambers who are working directly with their own members to figure out ways where they can support their businesses with more affordable childcare. When it comes to worker training, just this week, there was a bill in Congress to expand the Pell Grant program to short-term training programs. Right now, I'm sure a lot of you would agree, a four-year traditional higher education is not necessarily the path for everyone. And there are other programs out there that could really benefit the workforce and get you the qualified workers you need. But our student aid programs aren't set up to support those programs. And a bill that was before the House this week, unfortunately, it got pulled, but it's a bill that we are supportive of and are working on getting passed, would allow Pell Grants to be used for shorter, as short as 8-week training programs to help bridge that skills gap. But, like I said, we need to start getting more people into the workforce, and, short of people just having more babies on a rapid basis, we need to look overseas, and we need to look to